That's Kathy. Do you desire it now, but do you all also like just focus on coaching, or do you practice real estate? Are you guys strictly listing agents? What do you do?
That's a great question.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm strictly a coach. Bluebell's a very active market center. I don't feel I'd be able to handle business. I still have a referral network, so I will do a couple deals a year, and I do that for a couple reasons. Well, I do it for one main reason, to keep myself truly active, boots on the ground. So I'm not talking from some ivory tower like you should do this, you should do that, and and then I know when I do it how hard it is, or how unpleasant it is, or the conditions of the market for buyers today. I just don't read articles. I can still do a little bit of it, but very little.
What she said. I guess I would add that, yeah, same thing. My goal has always been to transition from being in production to a full-time coach. And I've been a full-time coach for quite a few years now. I guess this year, the only difference this year, and same thing, I have maybe 3 transactions a year that I'll do for friends or family. But this year, the difference is, I started at the beginning of the year, I said, if I'm going to ask you guys to do this, I'm going to do it myself. Because I was too many, you know what, if we're going to come in here on Monday and do group coaching, and I'm going to ask you what you guys did over the weekend to prospect, and I've got nothing myself, then, so I have been doing more prospecting, and the idea of doing that is, again, being a full-time coach that can bring leads into our coaching tribe, and again, it's just walking the talk, so.
Awesome. Sure, so the question was, do we still do real estate with coaching? That was the question. So I currently do, so I run a real estate team as well as coaching. So my role on the team is strictly listings. So we do have a buyer specialist, an executive assistant, an operations manager. We are looking, so my goal is to be like Val and Jason. I'm looking to grow a 7-level team. So the team's actually running itself. I'm on a 5-year plan is to have a CEO running the team so I can focus on coaching 100%. And by that time, our market center will be pretty big.
I don't have to answer, right?
Well, no.
What's that?
You said no Cassie, right?
This is Grant Wilkesburg.
I think she still wants you to.
All right. So I'm Cassie transferring from the Pocono office. Yes, I still do real estate. I am solely, for the most part, listing 37 last year, 32 listings last year. And I did work with 5 buyers. But my heart is in coaching and also being an investor. Like them, I also want to transition into full-time coaching and investing, and that's it.
So, Doug Scullin from Brandywine Valley. This is an interesting topic because it's been a hot topic within my market center because I am totally devoted to being a coach. I've been in real estate 28 years and did very well. I was very lucky to be with good partners and brokers, and in doing well, felt as though I always wanted to do something more. I felt as though I was helping clients, but having a group of people that could rely on me to do that. The challenge is, you do want to stay current, as Val and also Jason said. So I am still part of the sales team within the office, but I very much refer all my business out. And my goal for taking this job was to have it be that I could live the life that I wanted monetarily to be able to have that happen. And we're now getting to that point that is happening. So it was a big risk that took me. I was at RE/MAX for 17 years. I would say 16 of that was spent thinking I should be doing something more to help people within real estate. So 16 years later, to finally take that jump, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but eventually it comes around to cut the piece of wood that you need to. So with that, I think it's still something that I'm passionate about. I love sharing the ideas. I love feeling as though there's this little mind meld where I can say things and then they go happen. And I know that I've made an impact. That's a really cool feeling.
Hello, I'm Duffy. I'm at the Jersey City Market Center. I am currently like a full-time agent and a part-time coach is kind of the way that the day is split up. I am still largely involved in my business with the goal of hopefully transitioning once we start getting a little bit, we're still in the, it's about 6 months since it started. So as we start getting people to produce more, then I hopefully will be able to take a step back. And I was just talking to Bill before, and you know, he actually just inspired me that I really should be looking for, not that limiting belief of just, you know, doing listings, maybe referring out my buyers, but that maybe I would be able to take it on and build my own team and ultimately have a team and my coaching team. So thanks, Bill. You inspired me in our role play.
My name is Mike. I'm with the Horsham Market Center. So I've been with Keller Williams only since December, but for the 8 years or so prior, so I started, realtors just doing selling, became an assistant manager in my office. Eventually, last year, became a sales manager of another brokerage office. And I remember about 6 years ago, a moment where I realized I did want to go into kind of the coaching leadership role when I had a deal that kind of blew up in all sorts of crazy but exciting ways. And I remember thinking after, I was talking to another manager at the time, and I said, normally as an agent, when something goes wrong, you want to learn from it and try and have it not happen again, right? Whether it was your fault or not, being irrelevant, what happened, how can I prevent it? What I suddenly realized is, yeah, that's nice, but I want to learn how to teach others not to let it happen. That was far more important than me saying, how do I not let this occur again? And that person looked at me and said, well, okay, you kind of want to be a coach, don't you? You know, that was kind of the moment I realized. So I've been focusing on that and the training and coaching, you know, managing for about 5 or 6 years. It hasn't helped my real estate business, but it's right now. My goal is to do more coaching than sales. I'd like, you know, like Jason, I want to help out my friends and family, but the goal would be to focus on the coaching because it's what I've loved since my second year in the business.
Sort of wants to answer that. So I would ask, like, what is your, like, if you could boil everything away, like, what is your number one habit that would probably be your 80-20 thing, right? The number one habit that you would constantly translate to your success. I think it could be anything. The habit comes like go to the basement every morning and get yourself psyched up.
One thing I do.
But like, yeah,
So-
like as somebody that wants to share, like. What's
Yeah.
the number one thing just to kind of like...
I got two. I can't boil it down to one. It's two. It's consistency and surrounding myself with the people who push me to be. I live my life every day uncomfortable. And I strive to do that. I promised myself to do that when I was taking Usha's husband's class, Financial Mastery. I knew what I was doing wasn't working. So forcing myself to stay uncomfortable and consistency for sure.
Financial Mastery is coming up, by the way, in June and July,
Yes.
so look out for that.
5 times I took it, guys. There's a reason why.
Having a consistent schedule is following your schedule. Whatever you put on your schedule, you follow. If it's not your schedule, it doesn't exist, right? So however you want to plan out your life. So your schedule is your life, right? So it's not all about business. You want to prioritize. Your family comes first. Whatever priorities you have in your life comes first. Right, you put that on your schedule first, it's not negotiable, that's it, you follow your schedule. When you don't follow your schedule, you can fall off the wagon, right? So that, for me, the one thing is following your schedule.
I could not agree with that more. For me, and it's interesting, something that helped me be successful in sales, I think that set me apart, was that I set a schedule. I think many people that are on the selling side don't. It's almost like more of a reaction than it is kind of planning out, being preemptive with it. And I think it has suited so well to come into coaching because without a schedule, I am lost. I'm the first one that's going to find some sort of Phillies game to watch or a bright shiny object that I can look at and just keep looking at, and I have to have it written down for me. If it's not written down and I don't have a schedule to follow, I just find that I just go in circles. So something that I've really tried to impart to my team is about the time blocking piece.
Yeah.
If you can manage your time. Look, I have a son who was very active within baseball. It was Murphy's Law that if my foot stepped on grass, that phone was going to ring for a sale. It just always happens that way. And if you don't manage that time, now you're being pulled in a million different directions. Be able to have something you know you can follow, that is going to be a clear, you don't have to think it through. The thinking is done.
Yeah.
Now just implement the schedule that you've already set, and it's your own schedule, right? You don't have someone dictating to you that you have to work a certain amount of hours or a certain number of days. It's the schedule that you set. So if you let that schedule down, not to be corny, but you're letting yourself down. That's just the way it works. So I think if you
manage that time, like when you get to the ball field and you're all intent on here to be with my son, the phone rings. How do
well,
you
first off, the
manage
phone was turned off eventually.
that?
to be able to say this is not the time for that. Because now imagine being on a field with 12, 10-year-olds with bats in their hands. That's not a time to be distracted, right? He's older now, but it's even worse now because now it gets into,
They hit harder.
well, that and more mature, issues and discussions and topics.
So you just make sure your phone is off, you are not able to take a business call.
And my coach, I would ask my, kind of clients here, my coaches, that they know if they need me, I will be there, but if I'm in something, I'm gonna get back to it. It's known. And that expectation is set very, very early to be able to know, hey, and I have a really good partner in Mary Pat that we're able to do kind of like an AM, PM kind of a concept, but that came after planning it, again, to not have it be by accident. Everything is kind of mapped out, but the phone being off, I've talked to Vince a lot about that. I was so happy when I called him late last night, it went right to voicemail. That meant his phone was off. I was happy about that.
So can I just jump in on this real quick? Everybody has business hours, right? What real estate agents is, they don't realize that you have business hours too. You're not there for every beck and call. And set the expectation on day one. Set your voicemail, set your email, put responding text messages so you can hit it real quick. I'm in a meeting, I'll get back to you. They don't have to know what that meeting is. But setting that expectation and standing by it is very important. Be where your feet are.
I would make sure you reply. If you say, I'm in a meeting, I'll get back to you, dear God, get back to them. We've all had that happen, I'll get back to you, and like 3 days later, it's like, where? That's how you tick off clients and whatnot, but I totally agree.
Yeah.
Set those parameters. Back to your original question too, it's my biggest habit is always talk about what you love. So like these days, for the past 7 or 8 years, it's either I'm talking about my kid or I'm talking about real estate. It's sort of one or the other with all my friends, and luckily a lot of them have kids too, so that conversation goes, but it's always, hey, by the way, I can stick that, rather Brian Buffini of me, hey, by the way, if you got my mailings, did you get my phone call, did you get my email, did you get my postcard, whatever it is, but I always talk about what you love, because that will show, and people will respond to that in kind.
One thing, definitely the schedule, that's like honestly, there's no point to your day if you're just winging it all the time, but one of the things that I have carved out in my day, like to do the things that I don't want to do it first thing in the morning. Because I actually even have that timed out, because I'm the type of person, I'm like, I'll push it off, oh, oops, I didn't get a chance to do it today. So I have it in my schedule that do whatever it is that you really don't want to do today and just get that done, and then I can continue on with my day.
I'd say your question, it was interesting, because your question was, what is the one thing that you do to make you successful, and then you kind of mentioned like the 80-20, so you answered your own question. For me, it's always focusing on the 20%, making sure that you take care of that 20% before you start with the busyness that's involved in the 80%. I would say the other thing is keeping my energy up. When I'm not running, I don't have energy. When I don't have energy, everything else kind of goes downhill. And then on Cassie's point with, aligning yourself with the right people, I'd say, I had a friend of mine call me the other day, and he's screaming and yelling. He's like, you do realize that you drag me scratching and screaming through life, right? And I was like, good. Like, so go out and find you somebody that's, that's doing that. Like, I need to make sure I have somebody that's doing the same thing to me. So align yourself with the right people, focus on the 80-20, keep yourself energized. That'd be my three.
Self-discipline, which goes right along with keeping to a time schedule. It echoes everything they said here.
Cold calling, circle prospecting, and when I was listening to the panelists earlier this afternoon, and somebody mentioned dialer, and another guy mentioned dialer, and that just kind of set off a bell in my head. And at lunchtime, I was talking with Vince and AJ, and we were talking about this very intensive time that goes into generating the telephone numbers for your lead list. I spend hours doing that in preparation for the next day. But that bell went off in my head, and I asked the guys, and we talked about a little at lunch, some Mojo Dialer, Vulcan 7, Red X. So my question to you is, what platform of the three, or maybe another one that you have that works well for you, and why?
Well, only two of us do real estate. You guys use one for the country.
All those products are good, and I know the people that you spoke with. I think AJ, you're using Mojo, right?
No, I was actually using Vulcan.
Okay, all right. So Who's using dialers here?
I don't use a dialer.
I never
But I
did.
do wanna add into this, red light, green light with your finances. Cause some of you haven't done anything yet. So red light, green light. But no, I've heard great things about Red X, Mojo, and, Vulcan.
Yeah.
What's the other one? Land Voice is another one.
I've used, and they were, honestly, they were provided to me by my brokerage, so I didn't been paying for them admittedly, but I've used Vulcan 7, I've used Mojo. It is, yes, it is good. You can dial, Mojo dials 3 numbers at a time, it'll auto leave voice. It is pretty neat. It has to be a choice of how you're gonna run your business. So I think I've called 10 FISBOs in 10 years. FISBOs expireds were not my thing. I sat 4 open houses a month. I did a lot of social media. I talked to everybody I knew. The Target, I went to the bar, whatever you name it. I was not looking to try and sell a widget to someone who didn't want to buy a widget. So I would rather relate to somebody than personally face to face. But it's just a business development choice. But I've seen people with crazy success because it allows you to make 70 calls in an hour instead of 20.
It's leverage.
It's another bit of leverage.
Yeah, so cold calling is going to be your primary source of lead gen, which it clearly is very credibly done. You definitely want to make the investment because, as you said, you're spending an exhaustive amount of hours the day before getting these phone numbers and then scrubbing them yourself. Whereas for a service, which they're not all that expensive, I get the red light, green light on expenses. And of course, as coaches, we do have concerns for your pocketbook, but if you've identified that as something you're going to work with and you're going to consistently make those calls, not fly by night like 1 week and then I'm giving up, but you have your scripts and you're going to use them, then I would say it's worth it. Yes, AJ.
Yeah, Val, that was a great point, and I want to thank Lucia about Quantum Leap, but I'm in coaching now there, and one thing we talked about is the $1 per hour idea, right? And that's like when you brought that up, I'm like, if I'm spending $300 a month on Vulcan and I'm getting one deal a year, let's say, and I make a $6,000 commission, you know what I mean? Basically, I just paid for the whole year. And the reality is you're probably gonna get 20 deals a year. Yeah, 20 deals a year. So but I'm saying if you bare minimum, if you're to get one, you just paid for the whole year. You know what I mean? So you just got to think of it that way.
It's an investment in a tool, and you better be making at least 3 times the amount of the cost of that tool.
Sure. Yeah.
I'd like to speak to agents that are more, I think it was Jackie,
Yes.
who said the phone is not for them. When I was growing up in real estate, the phone is all I had. This was like horse and carriage times. There was no internet. This was a time where that's all I had was the phone, right? I still found that even though I was making calls at that point and I could try and find phone numbers and, at this point it was white pages, literally going through white pages sometimes, I still found that knock on the door made my success level go so much higher. So it doesn't have to. I think if you're going to do that, to the points that have been made here, investment, make sure you're getting your ROI and that it's working for you. But if you're an agent that is not comfortable with that, does that mean the business stops? The answer is no. You find another way around that. And I think that so many people hear a dialer and they go, well, that's what I have to do. I have to sit. If I had to sit at a desk for 2 hours and just make calls, I knew I was going to go crazy. I had to go out and talk to people. I had to have an interaction. Don't be limiting. Don't think that that's the cure-all, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah.
That there's people out there making a lot of money and they make 0 calls. Now, I was very lucky. My mom was one of 12. My dad was one of 8. So my sphere when I started, when I was 23, Vince and I talk about that a lot, I was very lucky that they knew people that knew people that knew people, and I worked that really hard. So I never had to go down the for sale by owner. I did a lot of expires back when it was called withdrawn and expired, which it's not anymore. It's a way to do business. For me, I'd rather get out there and knock on a door and say, hi, I saw that you are now off the market. I'd love to be able to chat with you. Can we come in now? Can I schedule another time? I found that to be a more real interaction for me. So please don't think that you're limited, Jackie.
If you heard him on the phone, his phone strategy when he makes calls, he puts us all to shame.
Of course, and that's great.
That is his jam. What was it, your first time doing calls?
landed himself $1 million listing. Like the guy's like,
Sold it.
yeah,
Amen.
like just, he's got it.
And I think if you ever heard Vince on the phone, you would be not very surprised. He's very good on the phone, right? I think I'm pretty good on the phone as well, but I just found my level of being able to actually get the business. I found that my energy level went down as I was just sitting there making calls. I needed the interaction. I needed the face-to-face.
It always goes back to what you're really great at and
That's it.
just being the best at it.
One thing about the dialers though, which one of our coaching clients just like discovered. So our office partnered with Cole Realty, which is like where you get, and he only pays $100 a month and takes the number from Cole Realty, which is pretty affordable. It's like a few $100s, and then he puts it into the dialer, like it just like scoops them into the dialer. So he's able to do, he has all these numbers, and then it just automatically goes in, and it's a pretty cost-effective way for him to be able to just sit there cold calling. So maybe that's an option.
Yes.
So I got in this business in 2007, and then, as we all know, 2008, the market dumped. I mean, I was ready to roll, rock and roll. I was just, so I did good my first year. I made $40,000. Second year, when it was still a bad market, but I had so much enthusiasm for it, I was six figures in my second year. How important, and I'm sitting in this room with a bunch of people that are not in it this long or haven't experienced this market, because, in Hillsborough where I live, there's 33 houses on the market over, 55 square miles, which is nothing. How important is it for these guys to jump into the market instead of jumping out when the cream needs to rise to the top now and just work the daylights out of it? Because I found in my second and third year, when it was still, foreclosures galore, which I worked to death, learned a lot. I'm just, reminiscing here that it was so important for me to make my name in the business at that point, because people were dropping off at, 30%, 40% of the agents were, they couldn't afford to stay in it. They'd feed their family, they, needed money. So it's important to learn, and what do you guys feel about that in this sort of down market, which you can make a good market yourself, and keep doing what they're doing, but keep up the enthusiasm?
I think that's addressing the shift book, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Gary says if you can take market, if there's going to be a lot of agents leaving the market because of what's going on right now, that's an opportunity for you guys to take that market share. And if you can become successful and get ahead of everybody in this market, when the market shifts again, you're going to be that much further ahead of them. So it's the perfect opportunity for people to put their foot on the gas and take advantage of what's going on.
Yeah, I was actually having a conversation about this yesterday. In 7 to 10 years, 13% of agents will still be in business. That's NAR. Yeah, right. It's insane. So think of all the people that you've known in your database, and if 13% are still going to be in business, where are all those people going? And how are you going to keep yourself at 13%?
You can sell them houses.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't think that the market is simply an excuse. I mean, any agent's doing the things that you're all saying they're doing, you're going to keep trudging ahead. If you're making the mojo phone calls, you're sitting in the open houses, you're knocking the doors, you're going to Target, talking to everybody whatever it might be, who cares what the market is doing? I didn't say anything, the market stinks. No, for everyone at any side of the settlement table, the market is good for one of them every single time. You go home for back to your family, I'll come for Thanksgiving, whatnot. They always ask you, so how's the market? You're the realtor in the family, you get asked that. And I used to have an answer, like, oh, it's good, it's great, whatever. And I took some class, and they basically they told me exactly that. Stop, you can't answer that question, it's good or bad. What do you want to do? I want to invest. Really? So when the market stinks, the economy stinks, you're an investor, congratulations, you're in the perfect time. Yeah. And so there's never a good, the market is an excuse.
The market's what you make of it.
Keep working. Just do your thing. You'll sell the $1 million listing no matter, it doesn't matter. The market will do what the market does. Keep your head down and get to work.
I mean, if you love your database hard enough, you'll always love the market. It's very true.
Yeah, no matter what market you have, there's always opportunity no matter what kind of market there is.
And Vincent, you said it like so good, like don't have a backup plan. Like don't.
Just make it.
Oh.
Burn the bridges. Yes. Yeah, burn the bridges. Absolutely.
So most new agents get very caught up in taking every class, including every YouTube
topic
Been
right
there,
here.
speaking from experience. What are you guys as coaches seeing are like the top 2 or 3 mistakes that your coaching agents are making right now in this market? Because I'm sure it's not reading all the books and watching all the YouTube videos. I'm sure it's simple things like mindset or time management or what, but what are you guys seeing?
I think Usha touched on it when she said, you know, if you're not taking action on your education, my favorite saying is education without action is just entertainment. So if you're spending all that time going to classes and learning and watching videos and doing all that stuff, but you're not immediately leaving, and you leave today and take one thing that you found, and I don't care what 5%, 10%, 20%, 100% of it, but do something within the next hour or two after you leave this room, because if you don't, the chances are that you'll never take action on it. So I think that's the biggest mistake, is they spend tons of time educating themselves, but they don't put it into action.
Yeah, and actually at Keller Williams, we provide the perfect format for all that education, because we're so big on training. But I do have to caution the new agents. There's steps to take to get the basics underneath and be driving your business. Cassie, you said it best in a conversation we had a long time ago. It's learning and earning. It can't only be learning, or you will be learning your way out of the business after the first year when you earn no income. So it has to be action. And Usha did say that's a great answer.
I think it's actually a very big danger with Keller Williams, being newer to Keller Williams, is that you think you're working. You think you're at work, right? Hey, I'm in a class.
Yeah.
I'm here. You know, I punched the clock. I'm here, right? There are agents that I have on you know, script and dialogue practice that never want to speak up, but they're there every week. Not quite, and I'm the first one to be very blunt and say, this is not what we're here for. You're here to actually actively participate and take this out to the world. So feeling as though, because there's so much educational opportunities that are available within Keller Williams, which are so great, right? It's such a gift that we have. I feel like my job has been actually limiting, saying, no, we're not doing this right now. This can wait. Let's get into real world stuff. So I think, hope to that question, I think what I find is that people they feel as though they want to know everything before they get started. It's just not realistic.
Most people confuse being busy with being productive.
There you go.
We've all heard this before. You're doing all the things except for the thing that makes you want to puke. If it makes you want to puke, you should be going and doing it. You should be sucking it up, putting your big boy pants on there and going to do it, because that's what's going to give you income. So, yeah, doing the scary things.
I would say also big girl pants too.
Yeah, big girl pants. Yeah.
My 22-year-old makes it very clear.
So the action items, so taking action, everyone knows what the 5 jobs of a real estate agent are, right? Anybody?
Oh, I was just writing them down. Role playing, script practice.
Yep.
Prospecting, following up, appointments. I couldn't think of the 5th one, I forgot.
That's it, you got it. Yep. Script practice, lead generate, lead follow-up, going on appointments, and negotiating contracts. That's what's going to make you money. So if you can have a lot of education. Yes, we have to educate. Yes, there's a ton of stuff to know. We're not going to know it all in one day. I'm in the business 6 years. Cassie and I started around the same time. We don't know everything. It's 6 years. We don't know everything. Usha, do you know everything?
You guys teach me every day.
There's always more.
So there's always more. There's going to be always more to learn. But those 5 jobs of a real estate agent, if you keep them in your schedule and follow that schedule and do those 5 things, you will be successful.
And of course, close deals.
Oh yeah.
Great. Negotiate by close, yes.
Okay, so we're all works in progress, so I would love to know what you guys truly feel is something that you're actively knowing is a weakness of yours and trying to work on it in order to guide us agents on the daily.
She thought that one out.
Can I go first?
Yes.
Because it's something I brought up on our coaching call last week that I am still fighting with, is that in my real life, I enjoy being this knight in shining armor that comes in and fixes a problem. And what I have found, and it has helped so much with my 14-year-old son, is the ability to just listen and not have to solve every problem. I find that a lot of my day are calls sometimes of, hey, I'm in a bad situation. Can you help me with this? Or I have a question, and I'm there to solve that. And that makes me feel good. But is it really teaching and learning and letting them grow? I'm challenged with that sometimes, because what I should do is say, well, what do you think? As opposed to fixing the problem. At the same time, I have that feeling that I just want to help. I just want to make things better. I just want to fix the problem, whatever it might be. And that's not always the best way to do it. So for me, it's really just taking a step back sometimes and trying to think about how this growth can happen better as opposed to how I can just nail the problem. It's a challenge.
Oh man, there's so many.
Especially when you know the answer.
Right.
Or you think you know the answer.
So the question, what is our weakness that we are working on ourselves to help everyone else be more productive? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say my weakness is my mindset and my mental state. So, I mean, I think some of you can relate that. Our mental states, you know, we're not always at our 100% prime. You know, sometimes those limiting beliefs creep in. You know, what do we do? So nailing down our one thing to actually get our mindset right. What is that one thing for you? For me, I want to have high energy, like Jason mentioned. Or having your mindset high, having high energy is going to just trickle down to everybody, right? So that's one of the hardest things that I am working on as myself, just growing myself. So one of the things that, and this is very recent, putting in place is being cognizant of what we put in our bodies. So the fuel we put in our bodies, there is so much stuff on the market that we can purchase that is not conducive to our brain chemistry, you know, like our dopamine and serotonin cycle, you know, and it's stuff that I've been reading. And just to put it clearly, most entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs have ADD, but that's what makes us creative, and we like want to go out and we want to do things, right? Tons of pros. The cons is our dopamine cycle. You know, we look for that high and we don't, and we can get struck down real quick. So like, how do we combat that? You know, so it's nutrition. So watching what we eat. You know, what are we putting in our bodies? Having a nutrition plan. Exercise. Exercise is the other thing that helps your dopamine. So if you're not exercising regularly, exercise, meditation to get that right, you know, everyone's a little different. So, I mean, to put it frankly, I have to exercise at least 3 times a week. If I don't do that, you know, then the mindset, I'm not at my peak performance, you know. So that is one weakness that I've struggled with a long time and that I've been working on. And I do the things that I need to do. They're in my schedule. It works. And guess what? All that's in there. You know, wake up in the morning, work out, drink a protein shake, get ready for the office, be at the office by 7:30. You know, it's all in my schedule. So all I have to do is wake up and look at my schedule. That's all I got to do. So that's the weakness that I've had that I'm still working on. You know, it's continuous growth. You know?
Mine's the same. I recently hired a nutritionist and started going to the gym in November, and that really, I need to work on myself, right? Because I can't be the best me for you guys if I'm slacking, right? If I'm expecting you to do something. But the other thing is leverage for me. I have my hand in so many different buckets that I often forget that my time is better off hiring somebody else to do that job, and that although I may feel that I'll be more productive doing it, my time is better spent somewhere else. So I used to do all the contracting work at my properties, and I stopped doing that. That's more time that I get to spend with the people that I want to help grow too. So self-care and leverage. Yay.
I didn't realize like everybody here went on a health kick.
Oh, yeah.
Gyms and dietitians. Usha, did you have something to do with this? I believe you did. Anyway.
It's a really good new book.
Yeah, no, I haven't quite got on any of that train yet.
Wanna work out? I'm going at 4:30.
For me, so the question is weakness again that I'm working on that will help my clients. For me, my weakness probably is that I have a very low threshold for boredom. So if I don't always find new activities and new ways to approach things, I'll get stale and I will lose my interest in the subject and won't be bringing my best to it. So that's something I've been cognizant of for a long time and always looking for new ways to reinvent things. So I can bring the best, so I can bring something fresh.
I just kind of realized, just by listening to this, that, you know, I said energy was a big thing. I just realized that when you asked what the challenge was, I was going to say mindset. And I was also going to say that I'm easily I don't know if the word's distracted or pulled down or whatever, my environment can take my mindset in a bad direction pretty quickly. And I just realized that the exercise, the health and the fitness, that is like a penicillin against the more I'm exercising, the more energy I have, the less my environment affects my mindset. So
Yes.
Actually, with that, I'm always kind of easily distracted. Like, I like talking to people. Like, I like, not to tell you it's a good thing. I like the got a minute. It's like that you feel like you can kind of instant gratification. I like vacuuming. You know, like it's dirty, it's clean. Like, I like those things.
straight line.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, yeah. But so it goes back to all these same things. It goes back to keeping a schedule. It goes back to keeping energy high. It goes back to noticing what your goals and your most important things are in a day. Because I will easily say, man, I passed the past 3 hours, haven't got a minute. I accomplished nothing. But so for me, it's that focus, set that goal, that hourly, daily, weekly goal, and just trying to stick to it because I do. I love the, hey, how you doing? What's going on? I can do that all day and feel like I've had a great time and done a lot. But knowing like when I look back into the day, what did I accomplish? So it really is. It's that kind of focus on my goals.
You gotta keep that high eye under control, right?
Oh, you have no idea. That disc profile, that's a way up there. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely would say the instant gratification. I'm somebody who really loves checklists and just like crossing off the stuff. But again, like it goes into, was this really productive, or like is it something in my head that made me feel like I was productive? But did any of those things really make a difference in my day? But yeah, the fitness and the eating really is huge. I got a Peloton. So I'm a mom of 3, and there was just no time for the gym, and it was never gonna happen. And when I did go, I was angry because it like messed up my whole day because now I'm doing everything else. So I just can go downstairs. I carve out 3-4 times a week, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. If I have some time, I could do an hour. But I just make sure that it's something that is just easily accessible, so I can just go when I have.
It's great for hanging your clothes on.
No clothes go on my Peloton.
Just wait. Trust me.
My question is, what goals or accomplishments you guys would like to see achieved by us? What makes you feel like, that's it, they're there? Is it the fact that they've gotten the GCI to graduate, or because some people still the mindset isn't there? So what is it that makes you feel as though that you have accomplished goals with that individual?
That you can run a sustainable business.
Yes.
Yes, and that you're happy in it, no matter what that goal may have been. It may have been I wanted to double my business. It may have been I just wanted to sustain because this year I'm going to be busy, I don't know, having a baby or taking care of somebody else or buying a new home. Whatever your personal goal was that meshed into your business goal, that you can do it. And I love to hear from my agents that are 3-4 years out of the program, still have complex issues that we discuss. So that to me is very gratifying too, that I did form that kind of relationship, that they know there's still always a home base that they can come back to and ask the question.
Thank you for that, Val.
I would say one of the first times I sit down with somebody, we're going to do an economic model. We're going to figure out what their goals are, but just asking somebody that really doesn't know how to calculate GCI or anything like that, how much money they want to make their first year, they just pull a number out of thin air. So I always like to ask people, what is it you want to be, do, or have your first 12 months in real estate that your income from real estate is going to allow you to do? Because we can monetize that, and then we can set your goals. So everybody's goals are different, and so I guess I feel like I've had some success with somebody when they can come back after a year and say, hey, there's things we talked about accomplishing. I'm really excited about my new car. I'm really excited about that trip we took. I'm really excited that I was able to help my kids do this or whatever. So everybody's goals are different, and when we identify those goals and be very clear on them, and they can come back and say, yes, I accomplished them, that's when I feel good.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a hard question because I look at one agent in the program and their goals are completely different than another agent, and that agent may not even be in real estate, but yet success still happened, right? Maybe they took another route that real estate led to. Maybe it was just a pathway for them. So seeing them hit any level of success, even if it's a phone call or showing up to script practice, that's it. Like, that's what makes me happy to the core, and that's all I need.
I cannot echo that more. Look, it would be great to have a sustainable business. I think that's awesome. I'm so happy for people like Vince and people that we have on our team that are growing businesses, Andrew being another one that's here today. For me though, being a baseball guy, it's process over results. I just preach that over and over and over again, that the process will get you there. If you follow this, that there will be an end goal, and if I focus on that end goal too much, I think the process gets lost. Just for me, and I think that's what I try and relay to my agents, that if the win is making that call that day, that you were just scared about doing it, if you don't see that as being a win, I think you're in the wrong job. Because if you're waiting for the sustainable business for me, I just think you're going to miss all the wins that have been happening all along. If you're an agent that is scared to talk to someone and you do it that day, that is huge. That's a big deal, and it should be celebrated. So for me, it's absolutely process over results. Trust the process, and the results will come.
No, I completely agree. Like, especially for a lot of my agents, they have a lot of first-time home buyers that don't have a ton of cash, and they're missing out on a lot of the bidding wars, and it's been really frustrating. But to see them just keep picking themselves up and just like keep getting back out there and not giving up and keep going through it, because as we know, if you keep moving forward and you keep doing it, like, the success is going to come. But there are those hard times where you can be doing all the work for 6, 7, 8 months, and you're not necessarily seeing it. But they're still focused and they're still moving, and the success will come.
Yeah, and I just echo a lot of what was said already. I think seeing someone celebrate the small successes, like you said, yeah, I made the phone call. You know, did you necessarily get the appointment? No, but I made the phone call. Someone answered the phone. I had the conversation. I didn't die. You know, those little successes, and seeing someone celebrate them and come in. I've gotten that phone call. Oh my God, like, that's awesome. Those little things. Yes, there's a big picture. Yes, you want to make the $100,000. You want to do this, but I picked up the phone and I made the call. And let's celebrate those little successes. To me, that's a huge thing, because like everyone said, they just keep adding up. Those little successes add up and add up and add up. And also, I'd say in a big picture, looking at the PC team, to me, I would love it to get to the point where people realize that in most of our offices, and correct me if I'm wrong, the PC team is the largest team in the office. Like, pretty much no other team in the office stands a chance of the volume of the GCI, of the number of transactions as the coaching group. To me, that's like a mind-boggling concept. You'd like to think that one day, not too distant future, when they have those regional awards, it's just top team. Every office is just the piece part of the largest team in my office, and we're just gonna kill it.
So, I can't remember who it was said that when you first started in real estate, don't worry about, they're not gonna ask you your production. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
You are part of the largest real estate team in your area. Use those stats, use those statistics to show your value, because you literally have that behind you. Don't forget about that. Like, that's big time. Good point.
Yes.
So you guys talked a lot about like agents taking action. I want to know if you guys believe in a thing like an agent moving too fast, specifically a new agent. Like, are there certain things that you caution new agents from stepping into before going through certain steps?
I think we all do to a certain extent, right? Because you don't want to avoid something and have your hand in so many buckets because you're avoiding other ways or trying to reinvent the wheel. But as far as being too productive, I don't, as long as you have your foundation, you know what you're doing, you're going to contracts class, and you're appreciating the fact that you are a business owner, you are liable, as long as you have that down, I can't imagine you doing too much production.
Yeah, too much production, I don't see as a problem.
Yeah, as long as you have that support.
Basics.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of look at it this way. I've never done this, but I think it would be pretty cool to go to the racetrack with like one of the professional drivers, because you can get in the car with them and you can actually drive that car like 200 miles an hour. So would I go and do that by myself without a professional sitting next to me and telling me what moves to make as I'm doing it? No, absolutely not. But if I had somebody in the car with me, I think it would be pretty cool to drive 200 miles an hour on one of those tracks. So I don't think, as long as you're plugged in and you've got somebody sitting next to you, you hit the gas.
Yeah, I don't think you want to limit what you're looking at, I think what we have talked about a lot on our team is anything that you have an interest in, but don't be so scattered that there's not a plan to it. And I think this is where, to get into, Keller Williams' world, the 135 and the 411, if you don't know what that is, please talk to your coach immediately, because it's extremely important to have a business plan.
You're teaching that class, aren't you?
You asked me to, and I never said yes, so I just kind of.
Now you've been volunteering.
But, thank you. Without that business plan, I mean, on the drive up here, we were talking about 135 and 411 stuff, with Vince in the front seat. I just think it's something that if you don't have a plan, so the plan allows you to be very focused with what you're doing and not be so scattered. At the same time, the plan can be whatever you want it to be. So I agree, hit the gas and let's go, but you can't be all things. You have to pick and choose, but I would not say, I'm only gonna do for sale by owners and I'm not gonna do expired listings. I think that's a foolish thing to think. That can still be part of a plan. But to try and, this is where the shiny new object, or wow, I just saw this cool new Facebook ad, now I want to do that, and now you're just going in every direction. If it's not part of the plan, you're just going to find yourself to be stretched very thin, in my opinion.
So the question is to grow your business too fast, was that what the question was?
No, I said, this isn't specifically for like new agents. Is there such thing, do you think there's a thing, such thing as an agent moving too fast? Like, trying to jump into something, but they forgot to do this step or this step.
Oh, okay, all right, that adds clarity. Yeah, so I would never feel like you're going too fast because you have a huge support team behind you. So, we want to get into, we're learning, we're learning and growing at the same time. So you might get into something and it's like, I have never done that before. That's a great question. And then, you call your coach, you call their support to get the answer to that question. So I would say there's no limited belief to that, so there's no such thing as growing too fast. You're always going to have a big support team behind you, in regards to that.
I think that's one of the beauties of the coaching program is that we're here to kind of help, for you to never feel like you're alone, or you're if you want to go jump into that $2 million listing, or you fire or whatever, you have people here to talk through anything that you're going through. And I think that's probably one of the best parts of this is that if you are ready to just go, you have that support to never sound like that's your first deal.
Anybody else?
Anybody else?
So I admire you guys for I look at you as a treasure of wisdom and you help me all of us succeed. And I would like to know what got you into real estate and what got you into coaching.
That's a great question.
I can tell you, they're short. I have a degree in nonprofit business management. So for about 10 years, I was the program director, membership director, development director. And at one point, my wife and I looked at the light at the end of the nonprofit tunnel and was not getting brighter. But I knew I wanted a career, not a job. I didn't just want to go 9 to 5, whatever. I wanted a career. And I wanted something where my desire and ability to look someone in the eye, to get to know them, to just figure out what it is that their goal is, to steward them through the process through to fruition, could, dare I say, help make me some money and lead to some success. And that came down to sales and marketing. Marketing jobs want marketing degrees, and unless you're just happy at $20,000 the rest of your life. And sales, I said before, I didn't want to sell a widget to people who didn't want to buy widgets. So that knocked out a whole lot of sales, but maybe pharmaceuticals. And I happened to just, again, long story short, sitting at a bar, actually, talking to someone who said, oh yeah, I'm in real estate, here's my card. Huh. And took my license and took the test, the whole deal from there. And it just was, because then I could do the things I like doing, talking to people, getting to know them. And I told you before, about the coaching was really when I realized that I'd rather teach someone how to not make a mistake than not make a mistake again myself. I know it's a weird concept, but it was more fun. I enjoyed it, that coaching aspect. And there was just a moment when that light switch went off about 6 years ago in my business.
I was challenged by somebody I love. When we were buying our house, my real estate agent, who is now a Keller Williams real estate agent, wasn't before, said, you'd make a really good agent. And I was a new mom. I was this pregnant, probably about 20 months pregnant. And I had a little 2-year-old running around, and my husband at the time said, I've done this in my life, what are you gonna do? And I was like, ooh, watch. So I was a bartender for 13 years when I finally left bartending, but I stayed there for my first year in real estate, and did it very quickly, very, very quickly. And 2 years in, going through another huge transition period of my life, my mom was passing away, and I was her caregiver. And my office had asked me if I would be willing to be the PC, and I was like, I don't know enough, limiting belief, right? I was only in the business 2 years. I didn't know if I could do something like that, teach somebody, guide somebody when I was just brand new myself. And had I not taken the uncomfortable route, I would not be where I am now, and I love it so much. Like, it's amazing, and it taught me to take every single opportunity, no matter how much it scares the shit out of me.
Hang out at the barn more.
Yes.
You learned that? One takeaway. There you go.
Exercise. I'm not sure we got the one end of the
Bar gym.
So very quickly, I'll answer. 28 years ago, I was working full-time in the supermarket industry. I was in management, and I was a student. I was going to Westchester University, and I was going there full-time. And some of the guys in the supermarket, one night, we were out after work at a bar. I hate to say it, but that's where we were. And
at the gym, you mean?
we were working out real hard. Yeah, it was a lot of drinks going back and forth. So with that, after many drinks, it turned into, it'd be great. Like instead of being let's go to Atlantic City, it would be great. Let's all get our real estate license. We can all work together. I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this. So we signed up at Pauly & Associates, if anyone knows where that is, in Newtown Square. After the second night, there was a total of 4 of us. There was 2 of us left. At the end of the class, the third person said, I'm not going to take this test. I don't want to do it. And I fell in love. It was just something that I found a true passion, with just learning about the business. So that got me into the selling side, and eventually stepping in and doing it full time once I realized that the net needed to be taken away, and did that. And then as far as the coaching side, it was something I was always just passionate about. I didn't know if it existed. That was the thing. And I was hard-headed and would have so many people saying that I used to work with, Keller Williams is where you need to be. Like, this is you. This is what you're made to do. This is what you're doing at our firm, and it's not even being acknowledged. Like, here you can actually make a living doing it. And eventually, again, almost 2 decades later, finally going, okay, let me hear about it. And it started with a conversation with Dino D'Orazio, who is the OP over at Bluebell, and then blossomed into speaking to everyone at KPG and going through like the 12-step interview process and finding that this was the right spot for me, with team leadership being looked at and also coaching being looked at. And I found that I could have more of an impact and have more fun coaching. That was my feeling.
I was at a job at a factory. I was basically capped off. I couldn't make any more. And I decided I needed to do something different with my life. I wanted to go above and beyond and be compensated for going above and beyond. So I decided to look into real estate, working for myself. I did a lot of research beforehand. I actually read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent at the front end to get some insight on what the real estate industry was itself, and I decided to jump in. So now that I jump in, did I go fast? I did not. So it took me a few years to actually become, a capper. And but I was okay with that. And eventually I had that mindset shift because I did have a limited belief that I could only make so much money. So I don't know if anyone knows about a financial thermostat. I had a financial thermostat at my last job, and lo and behold, my first full-time year in real estate, I made pretty much exactly what I made at the factory job. And then I had that insight of, wow, I can make so much more money. And the next year my business tripled, and then the rest is history. Now, getting into coaching. So my life changed dramatically from where I was, right? So I felt compelled, and I mean, it's a pleasure to help other people change their life. So before I became a coach, I was committed every day to come in and host script practice and help the new agents, and it's a double accountability. Like, we're everyone's script practicing together, and we're all going to lead generate together, and we're all doing it together, right? So at that time, the PC decided to step out of our role, and they confronted me about it, and I'm like, I never thought of that. They're like, well, you're helping everyone anyway. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I decided to do that. I actually changed my plans because I love helping people, and I love helping people change their lives. So wherever you're from, so wherever you start at, you know, what you put in this industry is what you get out of it, and that's why I got into coaching.
So 33 years ago, I was managing a very, very large popular retail store, and I was pregnant, and when I announced that pregnancy, that didn't go over that well, and I was going to be demoted. And I said, hell no, that's not going to happen, I'll quit. And then after I had my son, I figured, well, I have to come up with a new line of work. I come from a real estate family. My dad at 89 is still an active agent in the Lehigh Valley, and he's an appraiser. So real estate runs very, very deep. So when I was thinking about a different career, as I was gonna juggle then a 2-year-old and, you know, another son would follow, I had to figure out what was gonna work. And, you know, given that was 30 years ago, it was gonna work that I was still gonna pretty much run the household and start a business. So I went to work for a local firm out of Harleysville, Letter Rock, and learned quite a bit there, a wonderful family business that I worked for. And I was there for a very long time, and then I took a couple years in hiatus from real estate, helped my husband run his business, but I still kept my license in escrow. And then a good friend of mine is Riddy Sick, one of the founding members of KPG, instrumental in the start of the Bluebell Market Center, and friend and neighbor. And he was always saying, like, if you're gonna go back to real estate, you know, you're coming back to Keller Williams Bluebell. And that was like not even a question, that's where I was going. So I did, I reactivated my license, I came back. Of course, it was during very hard times of real estate, but I did make it. I became a capper, I was on the ALC, because it was my goal to surround myself with people that knew way more than I did, and who could really immerse me in real estate, and that is really true. So I'd be on the ALC with the likes of a Gary Siegel or other people who are influential in our market, and I started to learn more. And with that came an opening for the coach in Bluebell. That was 7 years ago. And again, that was a very big program in Bluebell. Always had a lot of members in it and doing some business. And I loved the problem end of it, helping agents solve their problems from a transactional end or whatever end it was. So I threw my hat in the ring thinking, I don't know, what if I don't get it, I'll just stick with real estate. And that's when I met Usha, who's not in this room right now, but she is, of course, the reason that I'm here. She's amazing. She really helped us all as coaches grow and develop, and still always does. And 7 years, here I am. Still hanging in there, Jason. I don't think I can be there as long as you've been, so go ahead, wrap it up, tell us.
So when I graduated college, still figuring out what I wanted to do when I grew up, and not sure. My cousin had already, much older than I was, had already started a successful consulting business, and he needed some help. So I went and I worked with him, and guess what kind of business he consulted to? You got a 50-50 shot here, right? It's either a bar or an exercise. It was bars and restaurants. Bars and restaurants. And so that became, I just got yanked down that road and until we started having kids. And then, you know, everybody here who's been talking about it knows in the bar and restaurant business, when you want to be at home with your family, that's when you're needed most in that business. So it was time to cut ties with that. And actually, it's funny because most people in this room probably won't recognize his name, but Carlton Sheets was actually the person that got me into real estate. For those of you who don't recognize that name, Carlton Sheets did one of those 3 o'clock in the morning TV infomercials on no money down financing for investment properties. So I bought the whole system, started buying investment properties, using your equity, sliding your equity around. That's how I got interested in real estate, and then from there I just, hey, why work with somebody else to do this? I can do this on my own. And that's why I became licensed. And then once I became licensed, the progression into coaching, I've just always been a student of leadership. I mean, from high school on. And when I was approached with the opportunity for coaching, it was just a natural progression to continue to learn more about leadership and be able to provide. So I just slid right into that. And that was 15 years ago.
I was pregnant with my first daughter, and I was working as a retail manager. Doing all those crazy hours, and I asked them to have 8 hours in between my shifts, and they were like, no, like it was, and it took an hour to get home and an hour to work, so it was really like I was only home for like 4 or 5 hours, and so my doctor was like, that's fine, you're gonna go out on disability, so I was sitting there at home, like, what am I gonna do? And my mom was like, and my husband had been after me to do real estate, and I was like, I'm not doing nights and weekends anymore, I'm not doing nights and weekends anymore, like, it's all that. And then my mom was like, I'm gonna pay for the class for you, why don't you just go? And I was like, alright, fine, like, what am I doing? I'm just sitting here anyway. So I took the class, and I met a friend. The only person I knew in real estate was at Keller Williams. And so he met with me over coffee, and then I was like, all right, well, you're the only person I know, like, sounds good. And so he was excited because he got a sponsor, and I signed up, and I started, and I just, again, like you said it too, like, I just kind of wung it through life. Like, I ended up in retail because I had been doing it since I was like 16 years old in the mall and restaurants and bars, and so I really never really kind of thought about real estate as a career. I was just like, well, you know, I could be a mom and I could do a couple deals a year, and this seems like a good idea. And then it kind of like took off, and I was like, wow, like, I'm making money, like, that happened fast. And so, and obviously I've gone through like my ups and downs, and it's definitely been a roller coaster. Sometimes I've decided like when I was pregnant with my second kid, like, I'm just gonna stop for a little bit. Like, if people called me, I went. And then, you know, when KPG kind of came, and Keller Williams in general, it really started to like shift everything to actual plans. Like, you can actually start to control things. You can start to, you know, make things happen for you that you didn't necessarily even know that you wanted. So it kind of like started with that like first step, and then for me, then when KPG came in and I was talking to JD, and it took on a whole other aspect that I never really thought I would go down. And coaching, like, in our office, we never had anything like what we have like with KPG. We just had like a mentorship thing, and I always thought it looked kind of cool. But when like KPG came in and JD was there, it was like a really cool world. I was like, this is really neat. Like, this is something that like I wish that I would have had when I started. And I was also somebody who helped new agents, and it was something that I enjoyed. So I started to pursue that as an avenue for me to grow.
We're good?
I think so. Yeah.
Any last questions? Yes.
What's been the best tool that you've used so far with scheduling with time management and trying to meet your goals? As it drives you to get stagnant?
Well, for time management, as coaches, we do appointments all the time, so I have people book online. I use Calendly, it costs nothing, and it manages really excellent, does a great job. So I know who's coming, when, I don't, have any surprises. They can know 30 days in advance when they can book time with me, whether it's in person, a phone call, or a Zoom. Calendly, like a calendar with an LY on the end.
Took me a good year to learn how to say that, by the way.
Yeah, I've used that for about 6 years now, and I swear by it. Every time I book an appointment outside of that, somebody comes in and takes up the time slot. Then I got to start to make phone calls to cancel everything else. So that's truly great. Keeping goals, I think the second part was how do you keep goals in front of you? For me, it's the old-fashioned way, literally written down, not like small goals, or not like a to-do list, because that can be non-productive too, where you can check a lot of stuff off and find that you really accomplished almost nothing that day. Do the hard things first thing in the morning, so you don't have the opportunity to push them off till the rest of the day or the next day when you again don't do them.
Calendly, Google Calendar, ultimate. They're fantastic. Revisiting your calendar every month and look at it and say, okay, what am I wasting time doing? Or every 15 minutes, looking at what you're doing every 15 minutes and marking off what you really should not be doing. That keeps you in check. As far as staying on my ultimate goals, one, write them down and look at them very, very often. And they change. Like, if you would ask me 6 years ago if I had goals to own properties, I would have been like, yeah, right, I can't do that, right? Now it's how many more can I buy this year? So your goals are going to be forever changing, and just keeping up with them. Have to have an end game.
Yep.
Know where you're going.
Yep. Pretty similar with here, Google Calendar, sticking to the calendar. With that, every Sunday night, look at your calendar, review the week ahead to see where you're going, see where you're at. You know, make sure you don't have any overlap. You know, I've always found myself kind of readjusting the schedule a little bit on Sundays to make sure everything doesn't overlap. See what appointments you have in place, just so you have a mindset of what you're doing for the week. Every Friday, reviewing the productivity for the week. Where are we at? Where do we need to go? Having a 15th protocol in place. Does everybody know what a 15th protocol is?
I don't.
Okay, so 15th protocol is the 15th of the month. You're halfway through the month. Are you on track with your goals? If you are not on track with your goals, what are you going to put in place for the next 15 days of the month to hit your goals? Maybe like an extra open house or two. You're going to call an extra 5 to 10 FISBOs. You know, what is it to set that extra appointment to get that?
It's going to be your worksheet that you're going to work off of to set those plans, but if you're not adjusting your goals and your plans, that means you're just operating in a world where it's just a vacuum and time doesn't exist, but we all know it does. And there are times that the kids are sick or business is just, or you're just not feeling it. You're just not there that week. So I think to answer the original question of the goals, if that 411 is written, that's your business plan. You don't have to make up new goals. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's there. But adjusting on the fly to look at that and then adjust your plan is really the key. I don't think the end goal is the problem. I think it's the implementation of that to get that done. Your goals are, you all have goals in mind. I'm sure you do. And if you don't, let's start there. But I don't think that's going to be the problem. The problem is going to be, oh, I totally blew off week 1. Week 2, I already have this class and this class. And what do? We just shut down the rest of the month. You have to check back into Bill's point. I think that's a good way to put it.
And everybody falls off. I mean, listen,
absolutely.
I fall off. How about you guys? Do you guys fall off? Break
100%.
everybody. So
I have
like,
to
it's normal for everybody.
Look at the end game. Why am I doing this?
Exactly. Look at the end game.
It doesn't matter if you fall off, it matters that you get back on.
It matters if you get back on, 100%.
As far as calendars,
Sometimes it's really hard.
yeah, I use Google also. I also use, there's one called Cozy, C-O-Z-I. Cozy is a shared family calendar. It's really cool. You can put in there who's doing, like, this is for so-and-so's event, and it auto-populates into Google. So for the family, we all put everything in Cozy. I populate it into my Google Calendar so I can see what's going on in that one. It brings both calendars together. It's awesome.
Yeah, I really like that fact on Google Calendar that I can have one with my family, one with coaching, one with my education, one with my personal real estate business. And then I have a fake one.
And then, right.
Then I have a fake one that I send out too. So you can just click on the different calendars.
I didn't know that. I was saying yes to something else, but okay.
What were you saying?
I wasn't saying a fake schedule.
Oh, teaching 411.
I was saying that to be able to have those multiple schedules, and I'm just going to put up a wall and I'll just keep going forward. Just trying to get me to work right here is what's happening. I think having those calendars merge, to Jason's point and to Cassie's point, having those merge so that in a snapshot you can look at your week. If you're not doing that, please start today.
You can really see, like, I color code mine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my money-making tasks are green. You know, my recruiting appointments are yellow,
Yep.
and my teaching is red. So I can really see where I'm spending my time at a glance.
So I was trying to schedule a meeting to meet with Cassie not too long ago, and she sent me a screenshot of a day in your calendar.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing. I mean,
it has to be.
It's just pretty and difficult to read and exciting. And it was
for me, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, well, you know, it was intense. But I need to also, on my phone, I need to, if I have to like wait till I get into the office and open my computer, then by then it's kind of like too late. You know, I need to know as I'm sitting on the couch, you know, watching junk on TV at 10 p.m. the night before, where do I need to be at whatever. So like if it's, yes, obviously my phone translates from the calendar, but if I were to like lose my phone for a day, I like forget the not making phone calls thing. I'd be like, where do I have to go? You know, I need it there. So I love people that use paper date planners. I don't know if anyone. I would die. Like I like forget it. It would be left the first day I own. I drop it. It'd be gone. So I live by what's on my iPhone.
Yeah. But yeah, so to capitalize on that though, the best planner that works is the one that works for you.
Well, you use
so whether it's paper, whether it's on your phone, whether you keep a tablet on you, whatever it is, if it works for you, do it.
The best CRM, the best gym. When you go to.
I also use my calendar as a way
That's
to
bar.
I also use my calendar as a way to track what's happened. So all of my coaching appointments are Blueberry, right? And if somebody misses a coaching appointment or an event doesn't happen, it gets turned to Tomato, which is Google's purple and red or whatever. But I can go back and look at the previous week and just at a glance, anything that was in red, like, you know, I know if I start having too much red showing up on my calendar, something's going on. So I like to look at to use the calendar that way too, just to track.
Anything else?
And the best calendar that you can have is the one that you're actually gonna use.
Yep.
You can have, there's so many different ones, but the most important thing is that you will use it and you will do your best to use it as efficiently as possible. Because you know, Gary would always say, show me your calendar and I'll show you your income.
We have one more.
Yeah, so, to end it off, in regards to lead generation, what do you guys recommend agents doing? I know it's all personal, what the person wants to do, but what do you guys recommend?
Ooh, that's a great question. So to best answer that is it depends on the person, because everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. We have some. What's that? What do we use? What do we do for lead generation?
Yeah, how did you start your business?
Oh, how did we start? So I had a limited belief when I first started to not talk to anybody I knew. So I'm like, oh, that's fine. They know I'm in real estate, which was a total lie. So
Secret agent.
I was a secret agent for my with my. I can tell you a little more about that. So what I did as a new agent is expired. So I hammered expires. You know, I tried everything, and I'm like, expires work for me as a new agent. When I discovered that your sphere, and this is what I recommend, if you want to start with your sphere of influence, and this is what we coach is sphere. When I focused on my sphere of influence, it took me 2 years, my business tripled, and I capped, and I made a lot of money when I focused on that. And I had that aha moment when it's like, oh, that one, that person that I know worked with another agent. And it's like, yeah, it's my fault. Because I didn't talk to them and express that. I am a real estate agent and I can help them. So, sphere first, right?
Yeah.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. Even if you don't think you have one, you do.
Yeah.
You absolutely do. And it's a limiting belief of, oh, my family's not going to hire me, or, yeah, my friends already know that I'm in real estate, or all the things that Bill just said. If you can tap into that, because it's not that group of people that generally are going to give you the business. It's the people that they know. So it multiplies so fast. If you're waiting for your aunt and uncle to move, if they've been there since 1975, they're probably not going to move anytime soon. But do they know people? And generally they do. And it's that group. That's where I really tapped into that. I have aunts that still call me and be like, okay, I always tell my team about this call that I just got a couple weeks ago where my aunt called me and said, I have a friend, she has a daughter moving to Denver. What do you know about Denver real estate? And I'm like, I know nothing.
Everything.
I know. No, of course I know. What I said was, I know nothing, but I can find out for you. So what's happening? And from there was able to get a referral started that's now being worked. That only happened because when my aunt thought of real estate, she thought of me. So that's the only way that works, to keep that contact going. They all want to hear from us.
I mean, throw out that another stat. You think about before you got in real estate, the average person knows about 7 people are going to buy, sell, or invest every year. Our jobs is just to get those 7 people to refer them to us, right? So if you can do that within your sphere, I mean, it's not a lead problem, right? It's a lead follow problem. That's where the issue lies. There are so many out there. That's how I did my business, was my sphere, the bar.
I think the challenge, honestly, if I could just add one more point, is why, okay, I already called them 2 months ago. Why am I calling now? Like, what's the reason? They already know I'm in real estate, right? I've already made that call because my coach said I had to let everybody know. I've done that. Why am I calling now? And that's where you have to get creative. Can you get a window washer that you've partnered up with, and now you're calling and saying, hey, if you want your windows done, I have a guy who can do this. If there's a landscaper that you can partner up with. If it's anything going on within the market, if you know that there's a house that's listed near them, have a reason to call. Because if you're just going to call up again and be like, hey, remember how I said I'm in real estate? I'm still in real estate. They're going to go, yeah, I kind of figured that. Thanks for letting me know. I mean, that's great. You have to have a reason to call. And I think from there, then it becomes a natural, it doesn't feel so awkward.
So I set 4 open houses a month minimally when I started for the first 2 or 3 years, sure. Again, I liked it. I liked meeting people, and not at my own list. I mean, if I had a listing, great. If I didn't, I sat in open house at someone else's listing. I didn't care. But at 4, sometimes 5 a month, because in the summer do a 4 to 7 open house, twilight open house, or commuter open house, you want to call it. So those were most of my original business was either that or sphere of influence, just constantly talking about being in real estate. As I got some business, I'm a very firm believer in the just listed and just sold postcards. Like, if I sold a listing, I sent out minimally 100 postcards to the neighborhood, 52 cents a piece or something. It wasn't like a huge investment. And in fact, even like 3 days ago, I had a phone call from a guy who said, I got your postcard. I went and had a listing appointment with him yesterday. He has 3 properties he wants to sell and a hotel in Haiti. But if anyone is a realtor in Haiti, no kidding, he owns a hotel and to sell it. I have no idea who to put in touch with, but he wants to sell his home, buy one, and he's an investment property on Philly. He wants to sell all of them off a just sold postcard. So I'll send out postcards of my farm and in particular my just sold, just listeds all day long.